On today's episode of Somos Lehigh Valley, we sit down with the Vice President and co-founder of FIA Employment Solutions, certified career coach Lindsay Watson. An all-new episode of Somos starts right now.
This is your Lehigh Valley, where your success reaches new heights. Excellence isn't achieved by chance. Success requires vision, commitment, flexibility. Change brings opportunity. The opportunity to think and work different, better. This space offers solutions and resources you'll love, with a world-class vibe that's close to home. There's nothing ordinary about this space. Here is where you'll achieve the extraordinary. This is your Lehigh Valley. This is your Venture X.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome to a new episode of Somos Lehigh Valley. It's a podcast presented by the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Venture X. We're sitting in Venture X today. Thank you to Terry and the whole team for putting together this beautiful space. I mean, we've got plants all over. We're reminded that spring is right around the corner. And with us today, we have someone that is very well known across the Lehigh Valley, has made it her business to get to know the Valley in a deeper way, and we're better for it. It's Lindsay Watson. Lindsay, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, my brother.
How have you been?
Doing well. This year has been an amazing year so far. I am excited that it's only March because there's so much for us to do and accomplish, and I feel very good about what the rest of the year is going to bring.
So for the 6 people that don't know who you are across the league,
way.
why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do? Because there's 6 of them out there.
You know what? I always say I don't know who I don't know. So I'm sure there's more than 6, but for the 6. So my name is Lindsay Watson. I've lived in the Lehigh Valley for 11 years. I came by way of business. I'm the co-founder of FIA Employment Solutions. We are a staffing agency headquartered in Allentown, minority owned, and very proud to be here. I came here because my business partner and our CEO, Bill Brown, has been in the Lehigh Valley longer than 11 years and has had business here. And so back in 2009, he had a cybersecurity tech startup that was in development and was a part of Ben Franklin.
Okay, the tech center there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so this was way back in the day when the promise and just the beginnings of the revitalization of the Lehigh Valley, specifically downtown Allentown, was beginning to happen. And so I'd come here every now and then for meetings, but was still working on Wall Street. And I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? It was always a dream. And so Mr. Brown, as I call him, came to me I think in like 2012, and he's like, okay, the tech company, the development was happening. There were a lot of things going, and we were looking at this as the thing, right? And as entrepreneurs, for us, everything is potentially the thing. Right. And that's the way our brains are wired. So he's like, I'm going to give you a few months to live, leave your Wall Street job, so you can help me with building the tech company, right? I was very, involved on the admin side, and we had meetings and prep. So I finally, the dream comes true, right? Woohoo! I leave Wall Street and then start a business, right? Co-founder, so exciting until the work had to be done.
Yeah, scary to me.
Listen, we've been in business 12 years. We started off in New York City and then relocated to Lehigh Valley in 2013. And at the time, FIA was in the back. It was really just a means for me to be able to make some money as a recruiter, right? While I was supporting the tech business and Mr. Brown. But guess what? The tech was developed and then it kind of plateaued, which happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the technologies don't launch right away, right? But then FIA started picking up. And all of a sudden, the shift with our focus and priority became staffing and recruiting. So we've been here a long time. In 2020, when the pandemic hit, and right after George Floyd's murder, companies really started to assess where they were from a DEI perspective when it came to staffing and hiring. And so we found out, we didn't know at the time, we were the only Black-owned staffing agency. We didn't know. Then we found out we were the first.
Wow.
And so since then, things are diversifying in our industry, which is amazing. We just didn't know. And so companies then at that point started coming to us and saying, can you help us find diverse talent, specifically diversity of ethnicity? And we have to talk about that because diversity is many different things. But in this valley, people of color are in the corporate world are still minority.
Yeah.
I know
especially the higher up you get.
Especially.
Yeah.
So we've been blessed to be able to work with a lot of companies to help them either hire or at least be introduced to an amazing pipeline that is here and also not from here. Right.
That's the one thing I was going to tell you is that, I think that 2020, obviously there were shifts here in the Valley, but those shifts had, waves, that spread out, further out to places like New York and Philly.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
You know why it's so easy for me to talk about the Lehigh Valley? As a recruiter, we have to pitch and sell our clients and the community. So if we're recruiting someone who does not live in the community where our clients are, we have to pitch. It's a full package.
Yeah.
So
You want to live here, you want to work here. These are the reasons why.
yeah. And if I'm talking to mi hermano or mi hermana or, one of my brothers and sisters, I'm not just talking about how beautiful the Lehigh Valley is, how many parks there are, how good the food is, how friendly people are, which is all true. But I also have to make sure that we, as a staffing agency, are talking about where the Lehigh Valley is and where it's going. Because for us, I'm just going to speak as a woman of color, when we move somewhere, church, salon,
Community. Yeah.
super important. And so there's so much diversity that is here now that was not here when we
100%.
right. And so for us, it's important that we're telling the whole story. So to answer your question, Philly, New York, a lot of people moved from here. But when you are hired by a company to recruit, sometimes you got to look nationally. So we've helped people relocate here from all over the country. But a part of our pitch was how amazing the companies are. We love all of our clients, right? And
There's some good ones here.
There's some great ones. Yep. And then also where the community is and where we see it going. And what we do is we have what we call a sleep on it policy. If we're talking with a candidate about a job, we never say, give us a decision right away. We want you to think on it and sleep on it, especially if you're coming from out of town.
Oh, yeah. Because that's a major commitment.
Yes. And what if you have a family?
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if you have a family.
What if you're coming from a New York or Philly? It is not the same here.
Well, and I think also when you come from a major city like that, it is like all in.
Yeah.
When you leave. Because I remember when my wife and I, when Sandra and I, we left New York in 2004 when we got married. Mm-hmm. And we came to the Lehigh Valley. We just happened to land here.
Okay.
Right. Because my family lived in Reading. Her family lived in Queens. We said, hey, we're not going to live close to either. We're going to find somewhere smack in the middle. And that's how we ended up here.
I love it.
It was hard for us to find community because, again, it's like the church, the places you go to, on a regular basis, on a routine that become your lifestyle. We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it was easy for us to, 3 years later, just bounce back to New York. But when we did that, we found that we just couldn't deal with the pace anymore. Because once you get out of New York, once you get out of Philly, once you get out of those major cities, you don't realize like how much of a on a hamster wheel you were.
Yep.
And then to get out of that, it's very hard to readapt. So 2 years after that, we ended up back in the Lehigh Valley, and we've been here ever since. But it was that thing where when we came back to the valley, we found a different valley. It was a valley that was kind of developing, and you had sports teams coming, so there was entertainment.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest things is like, what do you do on the weekend? Mm-hmm. You go to New York, you go to Philly. I mean, you don't stay here.
Yeah.
But now there are so many different things that, and Chamber is one of them where There's so many events going on that you get connected there. All of a sudden, you start bumping to the same people. You start building friendships, relationships.
Yeah.
I mean, we're taping this right now, and we have friends on the first floor that are, and it's so great to have that feeling of community.
Okay, so can we talk about that? I
Absolutely.
promise you I'm not going to
Let's do
interview
it.
you.
Hey,
I'm
listen.
trying so hard not
That's
to
all
interview
right.
you.
Hey, I'm all game. Whatever you want.
So one of the things that I definitely want to talk about is how you and I met.
Yeah.
Because we have history, right? I
do.
call you my brother.
Yeah.
Like, I don't do that with a lot of people.
I appreciate that.
But it was community.
It was.
Do you want to start?
Yeah. So
Okay.
back in 2018, I took on a role with the American Red Cross as the regional communications manager for this area. And through that, one of my responsibilities was to train up communications volunteers. And I remember that fall there was a hurricane. I think it was Hurricane Florence. It hit down in the Carolinas.
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
so what we did is we opened up we had a Saturday training session.
Yeah.
Where we said, okay, we're gonna take everybody through the classes, but we're also gonna do some on camera and lo and behold, there's this tall African American lady that shows up, and she introduces herself, and it's Lindsay, and the thing is, like, the fact that you're like tall and you have this presence, it's like hard to forget you. So I remember you doing the on-screen thing, and we started developing a friendship. I met Bill through you, and so the three of us would just go out, and do work on projects and things and videos and all kinds of things. And so I think that's how it started.
Yeah.
Is through that partnership and working through the Red Cross. I got to know, a lot about what your passions were, not knowing that both of you had like a staffing agency and that I would need your help in the years to come. So I'm going to let you continue the story.
Come on, Tyen. I love it. I love it. Yes. Well, but this is a great example of community and cultivating relationships and having to be intentional with that.
Yes.
Not forcing anything, but just keeping it going. So fast forward all those years, you did an amazing job at the American Red Cross, got to travel to a lot of places and really cover events and talk about the importance of preparedness, which is a topic that will never, ever go away, right?
And I know that's one of your passions is talking about like weather and preparedness. Yeah.
Yes. So when you were in that transition, we started working from a career coaching perspective. And I'm not sharing anything that's private because you've been on interviews and everything all the time, right? And so I knew you, but I really didn't know what it was you were doing and what you wanted to do. So after a couple...
And neither did I.
Right. Well, and that's why you come to a coach. That's why it's so important. We always like to say to people, don't try and figure stuff out yourself. If you have a career and you are desiring to want to grow or advance or even excel, whether you've had 5 to 7, 7 to 10 plus years of experience, find a coach, find someone who can help, because it can be easier for us to identify the strengths in others and in ourselves. I don't believe that we should ever, and we don't practice ever trying to figure things out ourselves when it comes to understanding our worth, our value, what we've accomplished, what we've achieved, and then finding a way to communicate that.
Yeah, we tend to be very, very critical when we assess ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we're just wired negative. That's just how it is. So that's why it's important to bring someone else with a fresh perspective from the outside in to help you with that process.
100%. And then if you're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. What you need is a communication actions plan. We call them CAPS, right? And we'll talk more about that. So when we started working together, I was like, oh my gosh, you've accomplished so much. Wait, you did this and this and this and this.
And I was like, no, not really. I didn't see it that way.
But that resume was fire,
It
wasn't
sure
it?
was. It sure
I tell
was.
you what.
Yeah.
Got you.
And the funny thing, well, not the funny thing, but the interesting thing to me was that, obviously, your agency places clients, for interviews and things like that. But I noticed that I was also getting interviews from places that I was trying myself, which is the evidence that, wow, I mean, the way that you put it together, I mean, there was a method to the madness.
Yes, we have a process. And so we do have a career coaching division. And just about 2 weeks ago, we were featured on WFMZ. We have an outplacement services division now. And I bring those both up because the services we're providing under both of those umbrellas is career coaching. Yeah. So we are working with a strategic partner, Emily Carlino. She gets her shout out.
Yeah.
The Valley knows Emily.
Flowers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Come on.
She's been a career coach for years. And so behind the scenes, Mr. Brown, Emily, myself have been building out the vision of outplacement services, which is simply for anyone who has to lay anyone off, any company, whether you have 25, 50 people or you're Fortune 500, there's such a benefit to having a list of services in place to be able to help those who are transitioning. So we've got career coaching services for the individual, like, right, when you came to us, but also for people who are being laid off. Our mission is to help keep people in the Valley. We focus on creating jobs in the Valley, which is amazing, right? But if someone's laid off, they're going to be looking for a job wherever they can get one.
Yeah.
So our goal is to try and help to keep people who may be laid off here in the Valley. And so we do so through career coaching, resume writing, LinkedIn optimization, interview prep. We've got about 25 or 30 additional modules, right? So it really covers whatever the needs may be. But ultimately, what we're providing is career coaching, and that is separate from staffing and recruiting. So if a client hires us to find people, we're going to do that. But if you or anybody else just needs to elevate in any way from a career perspective, we're going to help you. We're going to work with you. And we have a separate division and a wonderful team of coaches and resume writers that can support you. So when you started working with us, that was really the beginning of that phase for us.
And to me, that was also kind of like unpeeling a whole nother layer, right?
Yeah.
Because up until that point, it was like, Bill and Lindsay, the ones who go out with me and volunteer and do videos. But all of a sudden, it's like I tapped into this other layer of, your knowledge in the field and Bill's understanding in the business world.
Yeah.
And so just having that, that connection, I think is opened up my eyes, to a lot of things, in terms of opportunities in the Valley. Because, you come here and when you go through like the morning call or you go to the wanted section or whatever the case is, you keep seeing like the same 5 or 6 jobs, same, positions, and you think that that's it. But when you start working with someone whose job it is to place employees, now you understand like, okay, the Valley is a lot more than what I thought it was.
See, it is. It really is. And we love the Valley. We could live anywhere, right? Like you said, the city life, did that, loved it until I didn't.
Yep.
That's it.
Well, and the thing is, like, my kids have only known the Valley because, I mean, my daughter was born in Reading. Adrian was born in Allentown. I remember this funny story. When Lily was about 7 years old, we went to Brooklyn to have brunch with friends.
Okay.
And parked the car. She's looking on the sidewalk. She's like, "Oh, Daddy, can I pet the bird?" It was a pigeon. That just goes to show you like how not New York they are.
Just not. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like they'll go to a farm and be completely comfortable around cows and chickens.
Yes. I mean, maybe I'm biased as I grew up in a small town and that's what I was used to, right? And going from the very small town where cows used to get loose on our street.
All the time.
All the time.
Oh, I get deer around my street all the time. Like they're walking around like nobody's business.
Right, nobody's business. My mom, where she is, the deer come at around between 4 and 5 every day, and they're so domesticated. They eat anything, and they come because they're like, we know you're going to give us something. So it's
a compliment, man. She cooks good. They know. You should feel offended if the deer doesn't go to your house.
Don't go to that house. They ain't got nothing for us.
Absolutely.
So it is a culture shock. And I think this is an important piece because when people move to the Lehigh Valley, if they come from a super small town like where I'm from or a large city, there is an adjustment. And so for me, what I love to do is, because I'm out in the community and meeting people, if there's someone new, I'll try and connect them to a group. Right. There are lots of groups. Well, I'm on Facebook a lot. So there are a lot of Facebook groups that support different ethnicities or certain groups. There are amazing organizations like Link that are helping people move here and just to have resources, because it's one thing to move somewhere and work. And I want to stress this because, AJ, I meet at least one person now on average every week who lives here and works here and does nothing else, has no community. And that sucks. You know why? Because even though we've been here 11 years, me being out in the community it really started with the American Red Cross. That was my first involvement. And my walk with God, I talk about very publicly. And I remember praying about how lonely I was because I would work, and then my church was in the Bronx. So I was in New York every weekend, right? Part of the praise and worship team, we had rehearsal. So I'd spend the night at a friend's house, and I had my rotation, and I would justify in my brain why I had to be away from where I lived every weekend. But it was really because I didn't have community and I wasn't being intentional with building it. And so, it would be so lonely. Now
imagine someone moving to the Valley during the pandemic.
That's the thing. So when the pandemic hit, that was tough, right? Especially
that was tough if you had community to begin with.
Even if you had it.
Yeah.
My family doesn't live here, so they're 4 hours away.
And
in
I
either
remember
direction.
during that time talking to you and you saying how, hey, I'm going 4 hours away to just be with my family because that's what I got.
That's what I got
Yeah.
after 14 days of quarantine. But yes, they're worth it. So imagine, right? So what I've learned even during that time is it's so important for us to really map out what we want community to look like and to make room for it in our lives. Otherwise, work and going home, and even if you have a family, that's great, but that's not the full picture of what's available.
Yeah.
In any community, but since we're here, we're going to talk about Lehigh Valley. And so one of the things I do, not because I have to, but because of where I come from not having any to now having community. If I'm talking to someone and it sounds like you guys don't have community yet, or you may be shy, or I still don't know where to go. People know the chamber. But do you know how hard it can be to go to an event by yourself?
It's very intimidating.
And so many people have said, yeah, I know, but I don't have anyone to go with. And I get that. I think for me, what I learned is I wanted community more than I wanted this life of just working and wishing I had friends, right? So I call it the 51-49 rule. You want something 51%, you're headed in the right direction. Not 50, whatever, not
50-50.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because you could still go either way. But 51, you've got one foot in one direction.
You're putting yourself out there.
See,
Yeah.
that's so important. And so I had to practice going to events by myself, and I had to practice asking people to keep me in mind for tickets, asking people what events there were. I don't believe I know everyone in this valley. People say it, and they could say it. And we're going to talk about social media in a minute.
Yeah.
But to me, I don't know everyone, and I love getting to know people. And I'm blessed with a few really good friendships, but just to be able to connect and say hi and listen to find out how people are doing and listen to see if there's opportunity to help them get connected, right?
Yes.
My whole purpose in life is to connect people to people and people to opportunities. And so there's a career coaching element to what I'm sharing. We all have our purpose, and then we have our profession. Those are different.
That's good. Oof. Purpose and profession. Yep.
They're different. I connect people to people and people to opportunities 3 ways: through staffing and recruiting, my involvement in community, and then helping others, supporting Mr. Brown and the other businesses he has, and his heart to mentor and look out for people, helping him support or structure whatever he needs on that administrative side. My second business, Joy Fluent, I work with small businesses to help them communicate what it is that they're actually doing, but they are who they are apart from what they do. And sometimes we blur it when we think, oh my gosh, I am my job. What happens when the job goes away?
100%.
What happens when the business changes? What happens if you got to pivot? You're still you and you still have a purpose.
That's called brand. So a lot of people don't focus on personal brand because they're so focused on career. And I think that sometimes the issue that people experience is that they're trading a paycheck and benefits and all these things for their soul. So how do you
Dang,
keep
AJ.
the, well, I'm just going
You
deep,
were
right?
deep.
Must have been the coffee I drank this morning. So how do you keep your soul? How do you keep your brand, who you are, in light of still being like a successful professional?
That's a great question. So one, you need a coach. I don't care what kind of coach you get, but get help. So that's one.
Get a mentor, get somebody.
Somebody. I can only share through my experience. In 2019, I was at a crossroads in a lot of ways, professionally and personally. And I realized I'd lost sight of who I was. As an entrepreneur, it can be so easy to get caught up in the weeds. You don't stop to actually assess what you've accomplished. And so at the end of the year, I usually do a deep dive with God and I just pray, how did the year go? What is the next year going to look like? And in that, he said to me, put your resume together. And I'm like,
I do that for other people.
yeah, yeah. So I ended up with 3 different resumes. I didn't know.
Wow.
One for media, right, on all the creative, one for business development, and then one for recruiting. This was just for me.
Yeah.
So I thought. So then after that, he says to me, okay, I want you to start to monetize all the things you do outside of recruiting that you've been doing for others for free. That's how Joy Fluent, my second business, was born, because I realized, web design, press release, content writing, working with people.
All along, you're just thinking, oh, this is something I do for fun or to help people out or whatever. But there are people out there that will put a value on that.
And they have, and it's been a blessing. So to answer your question, yes, you have to stop and assess truly what you do. If you don't know who you are, what your purpose is, don't worry about it, because sometimes you just start with what you got and it'll lead to it. So I started to look at all the things that I do, and that led me to see the theme of connecting people to people and people to opportunities. So that's one. You'd mentioned mentor, and I think that that's important. We should talk about that. So my mentor has been Mr. Bill Brown for over 20 years, and he's guided and mentored me through my corporate career. And then obviously as an entrepreneur, he's been an entrepreneur for over 30 years.
Good mentor to have.
He's a great mentor to have. And so I consider him a mentor and a coach. Right? Because mentors will come in and they'll help and they'll pour out, and then they may not be connected with you day to day. Think about a coach. Coach is on the field, telling you how to stand, helping you when you fall, right?
They're helping you with the technique.
Yes. But in that, the coaching also provides empowerment. It gives you a sense of confidence, like, hey, I can go do this, right? Yeah. So Mr. Brown to me is that he's a mentor and coach. And then I also have so many amazing people in my sphere. My dad is wildly successful in the Navy, and everything he does to connect others, I realize that's part of my DNA. And so I get to honor him by being a connector and learning from him and watching him and seeing how the people he's connected, how they're thriving, not by him necessarily being on the field, but just being able to identify when somebody needs something and pulling from his archives to find that need and introduce it to the person who has that need. Yeah. And so that's what I realize I am. I connect. I don't want to be in the weeds with everything. Give me the opportunity to make the connection, and then you guys do something with it. And that's okay. So I didn't really fully embrace that without that process of getting those resumes together, writing down what I'd actually done. And that was 2019. What happened in 2020?
Pandemic.
People lost their jobs. They lost their businesses. People started coming
People
to
had
us.
to sit at home.
They had to stay at home.
I think that for a lot of people, that was the worst part, is I have to sit here and do nothing. Like, what do I do when I don't do the thing that I do?
Listen, people rose, they fell, they rose again. So many businesses were created, right? My Joy Fluent was.
And some have remained.
Yes.
But some people just saw it as a fad and rolled away from it.
Yeah. I will tell you, staying at home is one thing, but having to be still and have all the thoughts now assault you, all the thoughts of the busyness of work, business, family, being involved in the community. When you're out and about, it can be easy to get busy and really not take time for mental health, not take time to really assess. That's, to me, what 2020 represented. It was a forced pause in a lot of different ways. Yeah. And so...
Well, because you were already there.
Yeah.
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 For a lot of people weren't there
Right.
in 2020, and they were hit with what you got hit in 2019, which is the realization that you had to take a pause.
Yeah.
So you had the realization in 2019 and you had the actual pause in 2020.
Yeah.
But you had a lot of people who came to the realization because of the pause. You know, and they're two separate things.
Preach, brother.
Two separate things.
They're two separate things. So all those experiences, 2020 hit, people are coming for help. And I said, oh my gosh, God, you had me go through all of that. It's what we do or go through is never for us, right? It's for whatever community we have. But I had just gone through the process. And so I immediately went to Mr. B. I was like, okay, we got people coming to us. What are we going to do? So he's a visionary and he's got structure. So he's like, all right, let's get a career coaching division together. We've been helping our candidates anyway with resume writing, right? It's just something you do in this world. But then it became a division and we realized we have to separate it, right? We don't promise people jobs if you're career coaching with us. What we promise is that you'll be empowered to communicate your worth and value. You'll have a document that represents from a quantifiable perspective how awesome you are, and then you get empowered to go out.
That's what I was going to say.
And get your bag. Do what you got to do.
At the end of the day, you have to believe in you.
At the end. But sometimes not all, sometimes, all the time, we need help.
No, but I'm saying is like, I could build you the fanciest resume. I could do all this stuff. I could coach you up. I could do whatever. But if there's not something within you that after seeing all of that says, you know what? Yes, I am worthy. Then
no le importa.
You're wasting your time and your money.
See.
Yeah.
So no, you're absolutely right, AJ. So so the division formally started in 2020. And I absolutely love career coaching because it's one-on-one or group time to really say, this is how much we all have in common. And here are the things that will work for anyone, just like you said, who puts it to practice. Understanding your value and your worth, quantifying that, and then being able to communicate it. We talked about the CAP, the Communication Actions Plan. So that is part of the service we offer in career coaching because introvert, extrovert, or whatever the mix name is, I don't remember what they call it, but the mix, we all need to be able to confidently communicate our worth and value and practice that. I'm not talking about bragging. I'm not talking about.
Oh, we're getting ready to go there.
Yeah, I know. I know. It came up.
Oh, yep.
That's not what I'm talking about. Let me tell you something. If there are 5 people in line to get a job and they all have a varied experience, statistically speaking, the one that has the best ability to communicate is the one that's going to get the most attention, which could very well lead to an offer.
100%.
So you could be amazing. You could be so good, but you got to know how to communicate that.
You got to sell yourself.
Listen.
Yeah.
It's and the sell yourself and communicating, it can be interchangeable, but I know people sometimes get afraid of, well, I don't want to sell myself because I don't want to come off too braggadocious or whatever the terms are now. To me, it's just really communicating. So if I say I connect people to people to opportunities, and I do so these 3 ways, and that helps you to remember where maybe I can be a resource. Or if I talk about FIA, that we offer staffing, career coaching, and outplacement services with empathy and a continuous focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and that's going to help you to remember. AJ, that took like 7 seconds for me to say.
Yeah,
but
you got the point across.
And you're going to remember.
Yep.
And when that time comes, you're going to be like, oh, FIA. Right?
100%.
Or, whoever you are.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage everyone, get your communication actions plan together. And if you need help, you know who to come to, because it's so important that we're clearly communicating what we're offering. And if you're not sure where to start, refresh your resume, create one, and then go from there. Because again, profession and purpose are 2 separate things.
100%. 100%. So we were getting ready to go somewhere. I'm going to take a quick pause because one of the things that we talked about is sense of community, connecting, not being the only person to go somewhere. We've got a few events coming up. We already talked about Taco Fest.
Yes.
So Taco Fest is coming up in the month of May. I don't have the exact date, but we'll pop it up on the screen here so that folks can get all the information at the end of the episode. And obviously, great opportunity to support a lot of our local businesses downtown. We're going to be shutting down Hamilton between 5th and 7th.
Okay.
And so we'll have tacos out there. We'll have vendors. We're going to have a pickleball instructional person there.
Nice.
Have you tried pickleball?
I have not tried pickleball.
Okay. I've heard that everywhere. Like nobody's tried it. Well, so pickleball, for those who don't know what it is, it's kind of like a cross between tennis and table tennis. So think ping.
Okay.
So think something between ping pong and tennis.
Okay.
That's pickleball, right? So
All right.
I'm glad that you said that you don't know, because we're going to have instructional folks out there teaching people how to play pickleball.
Nice.
So that's one event coming. We also have a golf outing coming out in June
Okay.
25th. So we're calling it the Somos Familia Golf Outing.
Okay.
It's going to be at Woodstone Country Club in Danielsville.
Oh, Woodstone's
we've got about
amazing.
70 spots there. So the great thing about this is we want you to come out if you know how to golf or if you don't.
That's
right?
what I was going to ask,
If
because
you
I'd love
do
to
or if you
learn.
don't. Yeah, there's going to be like a practice section there if you just want to take some swings and
Yeah.
try it out.
Yeah.
But we'll have the golf for folks who want to get out there on the course. And then at the end of the day, we're going to have a like a little reception banquet, just for people to kind of network and talk. And I think we're working on an option where people can just go to that.
Okay.
If they want to do that. But obviously the golf will be all day. So we've got that coming up. And then in the fall,
Wait, there's more.
there's always see. I've learned the rules of threes. You got to have three.
Sounds familiar.
So what are the two so far?
So Taco Fest,
Taco
first of
Fest,
all, I wish
yeah.
it was tomorrow or today.
I could.
I gotta
go for a
wait
taco
until
right
May.
after this.
Yeah. Taco Fest, Woodstone, which is going to be an amazing golf outing / networking event, which hopefully that could be separate, which will be good.
Do you
And
think you know what the third might be? It's our biggest event of the year.
wait, which chamber? Who
The
we
Hispanic,
talking?
the Hispanic Chamber, the biggest event of the Hispanic Chamber all year.
You know I go to all of your events, so
Come on,
I
there's
know. It's
one in
September,
particular.
September, Hispanic Heritage
People
Month.
fight for these tickets. Literally, like I get people like, oh, I need my ticket.
Wait, they fight. Wait a minute. No.
The Hispanic Chamber Gala.
Oh, see. Joe Mavoy, are you
Yeah,
kidding me?
absolutely.
Yes. I don't know why I was thinking of something else. And maybe because I actually get tickets for that in advance. Sometimes I
There
wait
you go.
very last minute to get tickets. But
You want to get them early this year.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you why.
what's the theme? What's the theme?
There is no theme. There is no theme, but we are going to be having the gala in downtown Allentown at the brand new Da Vinci Science Center. We did a walkthrough on Tuesday.
Dude.
Let me just tell you that this place is going to be next level.
I am so excited.
It is going to be next level. I mean, just from the it's not finished yet, but just from the very little that I saw, I mean, this place is going to, I'm just so excited for the students
Yes.
of the Allentown School District,
Yeah.
Allentown, the Lehigh Valley. You're going to have a place where you can go and get immersed in science.
Yeah.
They have like a functional human, you could walk through like an abdomen,
Yeah.
and then a heart chamber, and
Yeah.
then like a human brain. I mean, it's just next level.
So imagine how much that's going to inspire our youth.
Yeah.
Right?
gonna be amazing.
The world of STEM, there's still such a critical need for us to invest in our up and comers so that they're exposed to science, technology, engineering, and math. So
Yes.
walking through exhibits like that may speak to, hey, I want to be a doctor
Yep.
or a surgeon, right? So I love that. Plus, we get to celebrate Da Vinci and the Hispanic Chamber and everything you guys do all in one location.
Yeah.
So that is the theme. That is celebration. I'm taking it. I'm taking it as my theme. I'm going to go in to celebrate. That's amazing.
Yeah. We kind of went away from doing country themes.
Yeah.
Because one of the things is that, like you and I were talking about before, the Hispanic culture is a monolith.
Yeah.
It's not one thing. And I know that, we were talking about in your upbringing,
Yeah.
Your exposure to the Hispanic culture. Why don't you share with the audience a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I'm from a very small town, and there weren't a lot of people of color. So we all kind of found our way to one another. I'm sure you've heard this story before, but I'm going to start from like the OG beginning, right? So I am a very proud auntie. If you know me, you know that, right?
100%.
Yes. So Joaquin, my nephew, was born, and
Is Joaquin the one who works in Easton?
no, that's my godson Jaden,
Your
my
godson,
bonus
okay.
nephew. We gonna talk about him too.
All right.
Yeah, I just auntie ship all around. So Joaquin is in Connecticut, and he was born when I was in high school. My sister's older, and he's half Puerto Rican. Then Sasha, his sister, was born like 13 and a half months later. So back to back, just goodness. Right. And so I was inspired to learn Spanish for them because I'm like, oh, well, they're half Puerto Rican. I mean, I want to learn. And that. So I'm taking Spanish in high school, learning the language, the tenses, the words, right? Which was a great foundation. But I really didn't start to understand or get to know La Cultura until I started having friends that were from different countries. So it started with a young woman who was in high school with me. She's Mexican. She actually had moved to the area from Mexico. And so I'll never forget, one day I'm leaving class and she comes and talks to me. We're both in Spanish class together. And she starts just talking to me in Spanish. And then I'm talking back and she's helping me and correcting me and guiding me. And I'm like, okay, this is awesome, right? So that continues. And then fast forward, I go to school and I end up in New York. So I'm on Long Island for the first 2 years.
Island.
Very, very nice, right? I went to Long Island University for the first 2 years. So talk about a difference.
That's a huge culture clash.
What? I'm like, I grew up in the woods, acre of land. I'm used to just walking places and, I would walk through a path to get to my neighbor's house and have to drive everywhere else. There was no bodega. There was no place I could walk to. Go to Long Island. The houses are next to each other. People don't say hi. I'm like, what's going on? But the diversity of ethnicity was so beautiful.
Off the chain.
And it was plentiful.
Yeah.
Versus where I'm from, we had diversity, but it's like maybe one or two per. You know what I'm saying? It was plentiful. So I made friends and I love diversity. And I credit my mom for that. She raised us on diversity of thought, diversity of relationship, and diversity of music. So we grew up just being exposed to everything and everybody. I think that's why it's easy for me to have a conversation with anyone, even if we don't see eye to eye, or even if there is a practice or a belief that I may not necessarily understand or have ever experienced. I will still sit and have coffee with you. Tell me your
Books,
story.
music, film. Those are the three. Like books, music, and film. Like you can connect with anybody.
Yes.
On one of those three.
Yes.
But what most people fail to do is, everybody stays within one niche of those. So, reading authors from other countries, from other nationalities, from other backgrounds, watching films. I remember La Vita Bella, Life is Beautiful, that Italian film that came out in the 90s and won all these awards. It was such an amazing moment because at that time, everybody was looking at that film. Coco a few years ago. All of these different, films that come from other perspectives, and even just like a cartoon movie from Disney. But the fact that you're able to see a little peek of somebody else's culture.
Yes.
And then with music, it's like, it's the fusion. I mean, it's like you think about Spanish music, how it's fused between English and Spanish. The other day I heard a song by Beyonce. I know you've heard this one, the country song.
Yes.
I'm like, man, that is like the ultimate crossover right there. You have the world's biggest pop star now doing country music.
Yes. Which just makes me so happy.
Yeah, it's just amazing how you have all of these, and it's because of this generation that kind of grew up in a world, globalized, where the walls came down. All of a sudden, countries aren't far away, cultures aren't far away because we have the accessibility of the internet and all these other things. Yeah. But a willingness to embrace other cultures.
Which is what I'd love to see more of here in the Lehigh Valley. Willingness and intentionality. Willingness and intentionality to embrace. Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about how to embrace different cultures? Because I think that would be helpful for people to kind of realize how easy it is.
Yes. Yes. So how can I come out of my pocket to embrace other cultures?
So we talk about building bridges. Personally, we have built a lot of bridges. Now we need to start crossing them.
Yeah.
Straight up, right? And it's a good way to visualize. So if I come from a different ethnicity or culture or background than you, there are, like you said, there's commonalities. The 3 commonalities you just mentioned. I also like to add food.
Yeah, well, of course. How could I miss food?
I honestly don't know, but it's okay. So really, you have to be intentional with wanting to get to know other cultures. It can be easy to get comfortable being around the same people. If you're from here, you have your family, friends you probably grew up with, right? I know that's a big deal. People who are from here have pride in that, which they should. But there are new people here. There are new cultures. There are new ethnicities. There are new dynamics that are coming into this valley. So really being intentional to say, okay, you don't look like me. We may not practice the same religion. Or you know what? You have a different job than me. We work in a different industry, different profession. Let me get to know you. What do you do? How did you start? What made you want to get into that profession? Or, hey, tell me more. I was just at an event last night, Community Conversations. Mark Wilson from the Zollner Center put it together. It was at the Hispanic Center. Amazing. The food was great. And then part of the journey was for us to go to the Zollner Art Center to see Las Carteras, which is a group, a Mexican.
Heard a lot of good things about that.
They are so amazing. They're a Mexican band. They've been around for years. Just really, really good. Highly recommend everyone listen to their music. I was talking with someone about Lent. And so someone was practicing Lent now, and a woman said, oh, my Lent doesn't start until this date. And immediately I'm like, what do you practice? What do you do? I want to know more about that. She's Greek Orthodox. And so she talked about the differences. And I'm like, thank you for sharing. Now I know something new.
Yeah.
And now I can say.
Instead of being afraid of other cultures and,
Correct. We have to start just the small things, asking the questions. If there's someone who's different from me, that is not a liability. That's an asset for me. That's how I see it.
Yep.
And so I get a chance to learn about people and cultures and backgrounds just by asking questions. Sometimes it could lead to coffee. Sometimes it could lead to getting together for lunch or, in Lehigh Valley, everybody wants to meet. Coffee, lunch, dinner, drinks, tea.
So was it empanadas, tacos, and coffee?
See, well, yes.
I'm bringing empanadas into that. I'll tell you why, because empanadas are less messy.
Okay.
Because it's all contained in a little pouch.
Sí, pero tacos son más popular, right?
Más popular.
Sí. Para todo ethnicities. I don't know how to say
You
ethnicities
go, girl.
in Spanish. Pero
Etnicidad.
Etnicidad.
Yeah.
So if you're going to start with tacos. Pero I agree. Elizabeth Strong and I went to an empanadas place.
Shout
I don't
out
know.
to Liz.
A shout out. I
She's
love
like
my people.
world traveler.
See?
Yeah.
Right from here, right? So we went to an empanadas place, and you're absolutely right. I'm Black, and I love being around different ethnicities. So I will try any restaurant, and I'll go, and I've probably had it, and I also live in New York. So
I'm going to give you a heads up on an empanada place in New York.
¿A
that will
dónde?
blow your mind. It will blow your mind.
What you got?
There's one in Queens. It's called Empanadas Cafe.
Okay, ¿a dónde?
It's Corona.
Okay.
So they do an empanada, and I've mentioned this on a prior podcast, but I'm going to mention it again until everybody goes and has one.
Get your cut, too.
Girl, they have a sweet plantain wrapped in mozzarella cheese in an empanada.
In an empanada?
Oh, yeah.
That's like a...
It's amazing. It is amazing. It is mind-altering. And I'm open to trying new things. One thing that I tried this week that I was actually amazed. Watermelon pickle. Pickled watermelon.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's a Pennsylvania thing or whatever.
I don't know.
It's pickled watermelon.
I could try. I'll try it once.
You realize that all a pickle is a cucumber that has been distilled in vinegar.
Right. But the process of pickling is the liquid. It's
Right.
It's not dependent on the cucumber, right?
Right. So you could pickle anything.
Right.
You could. I tried a pickled mango.
Okay.
I tried a pickled watermelon, and I tried all these things. I'm like, man, that's not half bad.
Where did you try these things?
Actually, a coworker brought it in.
Did he or she make them?
No, I think she belongs to a pickle club.
Oh, there's a pickle club. See, but let's tie this into community.
Yeah.
Anything that you like to do.
See, but that's the thing. It's like at first I was apprehensive because it was the unknown.
Right.
Right. It was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I don't, but then when I tried it, it was like, wow, I'm better for the experience.
And now you know somebody who's in a pickle club.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, one, there's something for everybody here.
Yep.
And two, we have to be intentional. It benefits us to be intentional with cultivating relationships. We don't just work here, we live here.
100%.
Right? And so what kind of life are we living with the communities that we have around us, and how can we elevate that? Because we all have a life that we're living, but how can we elevate that? Well, for me, I find it's being intentional with having conversations with people and then kind of cultivating the relationships that seem to exist, right? That seem to be good from there. But we can't do that if we're not willing to cross the bridges that have been built.
100%. So as we start to wrap this up, I mean, we've talked about a lot of things, but one thing that we haven't touched on is social media. We were talking before about brand, about how you don't lose yourself in your career.
Yeah.
How sometimes people feel they're being braggadocious about things.
Yeah.
And one of the places where you see that a lot is social media, where, it's almost like we've started to question people's motives for posting things.
Yeah.
So as somebody who uses social media, how do you combat that judgment, for lack of a better word, of people as far as what you share on social media?
I don't know if I have the answer, but I'll just say where I am now. Social media can be used for good or evil. I choose to look at it as an opportunity, a platform for good. So, but good to me is both ups and downs, right? To an extent. Of course, I'm not going to show everybody everything that's going on, but I do my best to be authentically intentional with talking about my struggles along with the journey of being a part of this community. So I put up a post a few days ago about how I've been able to start exercising 3 to 4 times a week, but I put it up because people know I've struggled with my weight for years, and I've struggled with being able to be consistent with just exercise.
That struggle is real.
It's so real.
It is real.
And I'm going to keep, like last night going to the concert, 10,000 steps. I started walking, just talking, having meetings, Zooms without the camera or phone calls, walking. I don't walk very fast, so I can still walk and talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but it's just saying I'm going to share my ups and downs. It can't just to me be about, look at me. And I've been told that it's too much you. And I'm like, okay, so how do I adjust that so it's not coming off as just a bunch of pictures of Lindsay, but it's representing what I'm doing? I don't use social media just to say, hey, look at me. I do it to share where I'm at and what who I'm with.
Community I'm building.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I've started tagging restaurants and learning how to do reels and stories and all that. It's a lot, but I feel like it's important. You get to support local, talk about what's happening in the community, and it may inspire someone who maybe was like me, who struggled with work, but not having a community, to take a step out and come to something. And do you know how uncomfortable it is to be vulnerable on social media?
Very uncomfortable.
Hey, do you want to go to a concert with me? I am saying I want someone who may say yes or no, but I'm putting it out there, right? But what I found and what I find is social media is great for posting. Not everyone engages, but you'll get the text messages on the side. Hey, 100%. I'd love to come. That's great.
Or even the conversations afterwards, because sometimes I'll post stuff and I don't hear, it's crickets, right, on social. But part of that is how the algorithms are built and whatever. But the other part of it is that you do have people that, you see them at an event afterwards, or you have dinner or whatever. It's like, hey, I've been watching what you're doing. That's pretty cool. Like, and I keep doing what you're doing. And that's helpful. But I think that the other side of social is, we should do more of that for one another. We should support. We should support one. We should cheer each other on more.
Yeah.
Like we talk about all the time, like cheering from the stands.
Yeah.
We should cheer for each other a little bit more. And I think that that's kind of where we're lacking, is that we love to watch, but we don't love to cheer.
So, okay, what are ways to cheer? I know you already know, but let's talk about that. What are, in your mind, your like 3 ways that you would cheer for someone who has a social media presence?
Well, I'll talk to you first of all from the business perspective, just because that's kind of like where I live most of the day.
Yeah.
If somebody has a business page, like the page. That doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And if you have 10,000 people that think that same thing,
Yeah.
all of a sudden that person can monetize the content on their social media.
Claro que sí.
Right? Which
Yeah.
is another income stream.
Yeah.
The other thing is, hey, if they've got a special or if they got something new on their menu or something like that, share it. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't know. There might be somebody out there that's looking for something to do on a Friday or a Saturday, and all of a sudden you've given them an idea.
Yeah.
You go somewhere and have a meal, share a picture. I mean, we love taking pictures of what we eat, but we don't share the pictures of what we eat. We keep them to ourselves, or we just put them on social. We don't tag the business, right? So
That's it.
Give them love, you know. And then as far as people who have personal brands, I love the fact that there are so many people who are doing things that I would normally pay for. So going the extra mile is me actually intentionally saying, okay, this thing that I would normally go to Best Buy, this thing that I would normally go to Guitar Center, this thing that I would normally go to this big box store and buy.
Yeah.
I have an opportunity to support somebody who is selling this thing as like their side hustle or their main thing. But I know that the impact of what I buy is going to be felt more here as opposed to with this corporation.
So this is important because you're talking about easy things that we can do to support one another, right?
And it's not going out of your way.
It's not. And so to answer your question with social media, I think we constantly have to check in with what our mission and our why is. I'm still figuring that out. I know community is a theme, and I love going to support people in person. I could do more of that on social. But if I can show up, I'm going to freaking show up for you or your event or your launch or your business because, one, that's how I was raised, right? You show up when you can to support. But taking those pictures and those videos and being able to tag a small business or, like you said, put a picture of the food up and now I always ask, get a picture. People always know if Lindsay comes in, we're going to get a picture. Listen, this is our life. These are our memories, and they don't all go up on social, but I want to know that I was able to intentionally capture the moment, the energy, the camaraderie, whatever it was, because things evolve and change. And you may have from 10 years ago, I took a snapshot at this business opening. 10 years from now, they're a public company. I mean, getting to be a part of that, I feel like for me is important. And that's my motivation right now for using social media to talk about community. And so that may change as things evolve. And I'm not looking to make money off of things right now, although I will, right? I'm an entrepreneur.
That's
it's going to
inevitable.
happen.
Yep.
But that can never be my focus for me. So yes, there's always that balance. Is it too much about me? Is it too braggadocious? Those thoughts are going to come, but we shouldn't feel like we have to remove ourselves unless we feel like in our spirits we need a pause from it. But we should continue to be who we are and be comfortable being that. And that's the thing. When I woke up this morning, that was just really in my spirit. Don't worry about naysayers. Don't worry about people who may have their judgments. People are always going to naysay and have judgments.
You know, if people don't judge you, you're not doing it right.
There you go. So I guess I'm doing it right then.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's like now the thing is that the key is that we have to learn how to block out that noise.
Yes.
And just keep it moving.
Absolutely. And there's a balance with the humility, right? Because it can get, you see the likes or you start to look for the likes and it's like, oh, comparing likes, but you got to check that ego. Be like,
I'll tell you what, there's an influencer that I follow, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
Do you follow Gary V?
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I go with V.
Gary V. Well, that's how he puts himself out there.
Yes.
But one of the things that Gary V always talks about that has always stuck with me is he doesn't get overexcited about the cheers. So when the boos come, it's all the same.
Nice. He's like,
he's level. So
yeah.
I mean, it's like you don't live for the applause, you don't live for the boos. You're just doing your thing. And you know what? you have to remember that you're choosing to bring people in on your journey.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that.
That's so true.
You're choosing to do that because you feel that it could be of value to somebody. And even if it's just one person,
Yep.
you know, you've brought value to that one person. That always takes me back to my favorite deployment, which was Puerto Rico in 2020.
Maria.
No, Maria was 2017. I
Right.
wasn't with the Red Cross yet.
You're right.
2020, just before the pandemic hit, there were a series of earthquakes that hit down in Puerto Rico. So there was this one moment. I was in this makeshift camp, and there was a mom and her 6-year-old daughter, and they're under a tent.
Yeah.
All you got is a tent and a cot, and the mom was able to take out like a tea set. The girl had like a little toy tea set.
Yeah.
And she had that laid out on the cot. And so when I went around and, you know, we're talking with everybody and interacting, I see everybody's talking to the adults. Nobody's talking to this little girl. Aww. So I go over to the little girl and I sit down with her and we play with the tea set.
Okay.
You know, and it's like I'm doing the whole pinky thing with the tea and whatever. And the one thing I drew out of that is in that moment, that was the world for her, you know? And so the motto that I drew out of that is that, you know what, you may not be anyone to the world, but you could be the world to one person.
I love that.
And so sometimes when you're dealing with social media and all these other things, it's important to focus on the one as opposed to the 1 million.
Yeah.
Because the 1 million, they have voices and judgments and all these things.
Yeah.
But there's something that you're going to say that's going to specifically impact the one. And it may be the difference between that person choosing to do the thing that they're meant to do because they found somebody that they can identify with, or choosing to just tap out and just continue on or resign themselves. So that's the way I look at it.
Wow.
That's the way I look at it. And just having that kind of flip has kind of changed the way I look at it. At times, sometimes that's dangerous because then you tend to look more cynically at your own actions, but there has to be a balance there.
Yeah.
You know, but remembering the why, that's the biggest thing.
Well said, AJ. Yeah. Well said.
Well, I learned from the best. No, but you know, but in all honesty, I want to, you know, I believe in giving people their flowers. So
yeah.
I want to thank you because just getting to know you has meant the world. You know, like we had talked, you know, it's like I was at a crossroads in my career.
Yeah.
And just being able to have practical conversations and just talk through, you know, those issues and those thoughts and, you know, career and life and, you know, all that stuff has made the world of difference. I mean,
wow.
You know, I used your services back in 2020, but we've maintained a friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what you ultimately aspire for, is to help people, but build lifelong relationships.
Yeah.
Because it's all about community.
Yay.
Yeah. So that's a great way to wrap it up right there, right? Well, before we go, Lindsay, why don't you tell people where if they need help from FIA, where they can find FIA online, where they can find you, where they can connect with you.
Absolutely. So our website is www.fianow.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter at My FIA Now, My FIA Now, at My FIA Now. We are active on social media. If you reach out to us on our website, you visit our site, staffing, careers, career coaching, and outplacement services. Everything is there. And connect with us. We have an amazing team of now 8. We've got a great support staff and then a great team of recruiters and sourcing specialists and career coaches and resume writers. So we are here really to help anyone who needs it, Lehigh Valley and beyond. But we're here in the Valley.
thanks.
We're here. And we've been here, I think, 11 years now. So we got some street cred.
We've been here. We ain't going nowhere.
Not as far as I know. So definitely connect with us. We specialize in empathy and diversity throughout our entire process, from job search all the way to if you are in a job transition.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, Lindsay. Let's see if I've been effective with branding here. So the Hispanic Chamber has a motto. Do you know what it is?
Somos familia.
Yes, girl. There we go. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for joining us here on Somos Lehigh Valley. We will see you next week. Till then, love, peace, and chicken grease.
Oh, who said anything about chicken grease? You could have picked any other word.
All right, how about this? Love, peace, and adobo.
Adobos.
Yeah,
Okay, está bien.
there we go.
Okay.
Ah, ya tú sabes. All right. Bye, everybody.